Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Branching Paths podcast. I'm here with Darian, aka LilDankRed. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where I'm based. I travel all over. Florida is my favorite place. I own a cottage bakery out here. It's where I really started to dive into plant medicine. So that's really what got the ball rolling. And I started doing advocacy work, and which led me to Decrim Nature. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool. Thank you. So Decrim Nature, Darian and I are both in Decrim Nature, and I actually wanted to invite Darian on the podcast because of something that I saw her do in Jacksonville. So for some context, Decriminalize Nature is an activist organization around plant medicines, and we have gone to several events in the past. Now, typically, when I've gone to an event, on average, there's been about two people behind the booth. That's usually what we can muster from city to city. Now, when I went to Jacksonville, where Darian is, we had about, on average, I would say about 6 to 9 people behind the booth. And I went, what is going on? Why are there so many people? And they're all active, they're all engaged, they all are really excited to be there. And so I started to ask around a little bit, what's happening in Jacksonville that's not happening in other cities? And that was when I found out that you host a community event or a community gathering, Psychedelic Sundays. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about Psychedelic Sundays, and I'd love to delve into how that's really motivated people to get involved in this space.
So Psychedelic Sunday started at Wild Crafters, which is a local kava shop out here. Um, and when I first started going and seeing my friends, we really got together and we were like, this could be more. This could be more if we got together and did this monthly. We could put this out and make it more of a welcome space because then our friends would see us attending and so on. It would be, a snowball effect. And that's exactly how it happened. We got together at the kava shop and made something that started out small into something bigger. And it's not just about, it wasn't just about getting together and telling everyone or, about this thing. It was about getting together and doing something that we all love and we could see being bigger than what it was. So it was really cool.
That to me is the key, doing things
Yes,
that you love together. Because I've
exactly.
noticed that in an activism space and in the plant medicine space in general, because of the pressures in that space, so much of it tends to be very mission oriented. And that's
Yes.
true with activism. It's also true in the ceremonial space. So much of it is centered around the ceremony, what happens before and after. And that is all very important. But sometimes I've seen that the community aspect gets lost in the weeds because people forget to
Yes.
have fun. It's
Yeah.
all work. It's the mission. It's the, go to the ceremony and do the hard work and then I've
Well,
had so many people say people find I find community and they make these beautiful connections and ceremonies and in the activism space, and then they say, I'm done with ceremony. Where where is everyone? I want to spend time. I want to keep this going. And I
yeah.
love that you've carved out a space for that. So I want to ask some practical and logistical questions because one of my goals here with this podcast in this interview is to replicate what you've created. So it's not going to
Okay.
look the same for everyone, but I'd love to hear some
Right.
pointers so that people can go to their own cities and make their own events. So the first one is frequency. How often do you meet?
Once a month is pretty doable for everyone. So a main thing, everyone is different on this, but is to kind of give that heads up to
Mm.
folks. So a month gives people time to put it on their calendar because we're all coming from different walks. We're all doing something different, whether it's no kids or a daily job, or a nightly job. So it's really about finding what works. And if you're letting people know ahead in advance, that makes it even better. So I'd say about monthly.
Wonderful. And a follow-up question, how structured or not structured are these events usually? So how much do you just make it free flow and how much do you plan ahead of time?
So typically, it really depends. It really depends on what there is to go into it. So right now, one of the events that's coming up, our kava shop is under construction. So we're doing things a little bit differently right now. But one thing that we have to prepare in advance is if this event or Psychedelic Sundays that's coming up, is this going to be, does it need electricity? Does it need a TV projector? Like, what is the event calling for, outside of Psychedelic Sunday? So, the one that we have coming up, I will be bringing a little TV for the slideshow that one of our co hosts has built a slideshow for. So that's what you kind of have to set up and plan those type of aspects to it. But really, it just depends. It depends on your event.
That's totally fair.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you could probably just have a hangout at first. So that's
Exactly.
yes, that's something I really want to emphasize for people here. It's challenging to host ceremonies. It's challenging to get through all the legal stuff with having a psychedelic church. Activism is hard work. This is something anyone can do. If
Yes.
you're in the space, you want to connect with people, you're like, oh, I want to do something with in the plant medicine space, start a hangout. Like go to a,
Yes.
especially local kava shops seem to be a good place. And again, I want to emphasize I know the laws around psychedelics. I know that there's challenges there. You are not dissuaded from talking to people.
Exactly.
You have rights here, and this is in the U.S. where I'm filming this. You have free speech. You have the freedom to gather. You can gather with people and talk about plant medicines. You can gather with people around people with that context. So again, anyone can do this. Anyone.
Yes, that there is no right or wrong way either. That's the best part. And don't get me wrong, besides like we said the law, but that's one thing that's great about it is when you're surrounded by your friends, I feel like you're more comfortable to really start talking about plant medicines and stuff. You're in your comfort zone when you're around your friends, so that helps too.
Hmm. The support network is so beautiful too. I have seen people struggle through some really difficult things with psychedelics, and these are intense. These are very intense medicines, and they can bring up some heavy stuff. And when people lack that support network, it's difficult. And this happens, by the way, even for people that go to churches to ceremonies. Some of the churches or centers that don't have a good support framework, people will get lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
So I love what you're doing here. Now, I want to ask, what initially inspired you? I don't think you ever envisioned it becoming what it is now, but what initially just got you started?
I would probably say the friendship of it, I think,
Hmm.
is what really lit that fire. Is I I had already had a small circle at one point, and something that really brought us together was psilocybin. So that was something that we were doing together in different. At first, we were doing it together, and then we started broadening that circle and doing it as a unit. And I think that's what really started it all was just the friendship inside that network. Besides the advocacy work inside, but truly, friendship is what lit the fire.
Wonderful. I'd actually like to ask you a little bit about the advocacy because I found it very inspiring how you just having fun with your friends on a consistent basis. And I do want to emphasize the consistency there is very important. That's once a month. The
Yeah.
consistency keeps it going. So you managed to motivate, more people to do activism work just by all the other stuff. So I want to ask you a little bit about how you've managed to kind of tie those two things together, the friendships, hanging out, and the activism work.
I like to remind people that you don't have to be special,
Mm,
special to talk to the people who work for our state. You don't have to have a certain diploma, a certain anything. They want to hear from you and they're supposed to hear from you.
mm,
So I think the one thing that I've tried to separate, even though it's all the same thing, is the politics from it because
mm,
a lot of the times we don't want to sit around and talk politics, especially right now, right? I mean, we're all so divided on many, 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 many different things, but at the same time, we're not divided. We're all doing the same exact thing. So I like to try and I'm not tricking people, but I'm just letting them know like we can still get our voices heard and not dove into the separation that's going on within
mm.
politics. So that's how I try to do it. Like, just remember, we're all in this together, you know?
Absolutely. I'd actually like to tell a little story on that front because I think that this shows people how impactful your voice can be. So recently there were some decisions made at the Senate level in Florida where I live. One of them was banning spores, and there was another one with THC. Now, it was made in very short notice, and very few people can be here. I think you spoke on the THC portion, yes? Yeah, and
Yes,
and,
yes.
and I spoke on the spore portion. Now, just to show you how powerful your voice can be, when I was on the Senate floor speaking on this is Senate Bill 700, when I was speaking on the portion banning psilocybin spores, I was the only person in that whole entire meeting that even said the word psilocybin. It was not read in the summary. It was not acknowledged after I said it. And so it wouldn't have even been on the records. Now, because I spoke, it's on record that they heard this. Because I spoke, it's on record that it was at least mentioned. And what
Hmm.
I also noticed, and this is hopefully motivation for people when this stuff comes up or when you see it, I went to a festival, Canadelic, afterwards, and I was sitting and the listening to a talk afterwards. I was surrounded by mycologists, plant medicine enthusiasts, etc., all talking about how frustrated they were with this law. And all I could say was, I wish you were there. I think
Yeah.
if imagine if it had not been one person, but if it had been, 10, 20, 30 people all saw talking about this, they could not ignore it.
Mm-mm.
So that's hopefully motivation for people. This laws, I know it can seem like a very nebulous thing, like, oh, these people are sitting up on high and they're just totally
Right.
detached from us making decisions on our behalf. No, no, they work for you. And
Yes,
these
yes.
decisions directly affect you.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that you've done what you did, and I also where I found you really inspiring. I have the problem of being so mission focused sometimes that I forget that we're
Right.
supposed to have fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be enjoyable. So I love that you've managed to combine those two.
Oh, that makes my heart happy. It is. You have to remind because I get so sometimes all it takes is that one negative thing. So, like
Mm,
for instance, the spores being banned. That was a if I would have took that hit 2 years ago, I would have curled up in a ball and not.
mm,
I would have been like, no meetings. I'm not doing. I'm not going to psychedelic because I have. I have been to that point before where um, Congress or the Senate has said something or passed something where I'm just like, I'm done. And
mm.
it took a minute to really collect my thoughts and realize there's still so much we can do, truly.
Absolutely. A big thing, the biggest theme for me actually has been community, and that's why you're the first episode on this podcast, because I want to give people tools to start building their own communities. I can only do so much as a single person. You can only do so much as a single person. And
Exactly.
one thing that I've seen is that there are so many people in the plant medicine space, and
Yes.
many of them don't necessarily talk to each other. So it looks, because there's not that much unity in some areas, it kind of looks like, oh, it's just a disparate couple of loonies out there. We can, who cares about them? We'll ban the spores. We'll arrest people for this, whatever. They don't matter. But I think that if, the reality is that because there's so many of us, if we got together and talked to each other, I think
Mhm.
that there would be real change. Because there
Yeah.
are far too many to ignore. And it really does start with that community. And again, like you've really opened my eyes to the fact that I've struggled with why I have failed to connect people in some. I've done very well in some areas. I have a good network, but in a lot of areas, I was frustrated by how difficult it's been for me to get people talking to each other, and that's why. Because people look at me coming in with my mission, and they're like, "Ah, that doesn't look that fun. I'm busy. I already got all these obligations. Looks like a bunch of work." So
Right.
they kind of run away.
Yep.
Yeah, but as soon as I changed gears, and this was following Jacksonville and seeing what you've done, I shifted gears and I've started to, I talked to a local kava bar, and
Oh,
they don't want to
good.
host activism stuff, but they are very interested in community events, and they're interested in, they're happy to have, like people meeting and talking about plant medicines. So I mentioned this to people in my local community, and all of a sudden, instead of, oh, I'm busy, I don't know
Yeah.
really, all of a sudden it totally changed. Oh, I'm absolutely down. I'm there, just send me the date. Completely different. Completely different.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome how it works like that.
Hmm. And I don't even care like if most of them don't end up doing activism work, that's fine. Because they'll invite their friends who will invite their
Exactly.
friends, and suddenly we realize, oh, there's a lot of us actually.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
how it works too. It's just one, what is it? The word of mouth, just letting everyone, maybe she doesn't want to participate, but she'll know someone else who will want to participate. That's exactly how it starts.
Yes. No, I'd love to ask this. I'm sure there's some great stories from these. So are there any that you'd like to share? Like any interesting stories and any cool events, maybe give people some inspiration for, hey, I want to start, but I'm not really sure, I'm not really sure how I want to do the first event.
So I will say it took time. The
Hmm.
like you said, talking to your local kava bar, and they're like, "Oh, we're not really interested in this part, but we'll definitely do that part." So I have been turned away. I have had one business tell me not this year, or I've had another business tell me only tomorrow, and or just nothing at all. I've heard crickets for months. I've had to chase down somewhere, someplace, and it can be that part can be discouraging, but there is somewhere that will host you and your mission, right?
Hmm.
And it took time to build that up, but once I kind of got the flow, so at first it was like a park, so we're allowed to meet in public spaces, we are allowed to
Hmm.
talk in public spaces. Of course every park has a max load, and you can look into your local ordinances to see, the rules around it, but you're allowed to meet and allowed to be. I've been through it all, and now that I've done enough meetings, I have people reaching out to me luckily, and they're like, we'd love to have you this day, or can you fill this day? So so it's that's a good part to look at it. It's You might hear no now, but you will hear yes eventually, because that was really hard for me at first when I started hearing no's when I'm looking for a space, and it was discouraging. But then I got my first yes, and then that turned to a second and a third and a fourth, and that always feels better.
Hmm. Absolutely. What inspired you to keep going? Like, what inspired you to be persistent here?
I I think what inspired me was my clients.
Hmm.
So I would have people place orders, or ask me cannabis questions, or where can they go. I think that's what fueled me really, because
Hmm.
if I wasn't doing it for myself, who was I doing it for, I guess. And when I would get those questions, I'd be like, I want to help you find that answer, and I want to help you continue on in this journey, right? Because it's so much more than just it's so much more than the what people are seeing on the outside. It truly does help people. It's about mental health awareness, and getting down and dirty to figure out what's going on inside. So I think that's what helped me really, is like, even though I was feeling discouraged, I've had somebody reaching out to me to kind of help them get out of the same spot I was in.
Hmm.
So that as I was pulling them out, they had no idea that I was pulling myself out. Like, okay, you need this answer, and I need answers too. So that's exactly what, kept me going in those times.
Thank you. I want to ask you a question, but before I do, let me just quickly look directly into the camera here. I got my eyes are watering listening to you.
Oh no.
If you are in the plant medicine space, it could be cannabis, mushrooms, ayahuasca, any of this. If you have benefited from these medicines, you're in this space, you are not alone. I want to repeat that. Look, you can look me in the eyes of this glare here. You're not alone. Okay? I want you to hear that. I needed somebody to tell me that, and you're telling your story, and I'm like, man, it sounds like you needed somebody to tell you that too at points.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. This is a space where people are persecuted. No
Yes.
sugarcoating
Yes.
it. The plant
Mm-mm.
medicine space is persecuted.
Yes.
So I thank you. Now, I want to ask you because I'd love to hear your story about how you got started in plant medicines. I know you were initially in the cannabis space, and then you've kind of had experiences in the psychedelic space. How have they helped you in your life, and how have you integrated some of your experiences?
So one thing, let's see, for my plant medicine journey, it truly started when I found out I was pregnant with my son. He was my first, and I had all these visions of a perfect mother, um, all these visions of how she was supposed to be, how she was supposed to act and sound and look, right? And I gave birth to him, and I was trying to follow that perfect outline of the mother that I envisioned, just for me to fall into postpartum depression where I had night terrors. I had a newborn in the bedroom with me, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I would wake up screaming, and I didn't brush my hair, my teeth. I For months it was horrible, and no one came to check on me. No one. Just it was just me, my baby, and my husband. And prior to that, I had used recreationally, of course, right? I was a teenager, but my husband had we had all reached our breaking point. Um, and he told me, he said, just come outside. It was late. We had did the bath routine. We had, our favorite show on, and he was just like, just come outside with me for 5 minutes, please. And I stepped out with him, and he had something nice and rolled up for us. And he passed it over, and yeah, I never slept as good as I slept that night. I never did. And I had like I said, all those visions of a mother would never touch this, or, she would only, just chicken and water before bed type, all this crazy stuff in my head that I made up. Um, and when I got my routine down and I was using it medicinally and looking into the facts and doing what I was supposed to, my sleep schedule was amazing. Um, I felt closer with my newborn, and that's what really kicked it off for me is how cannabis saved me because I was in a very, very dark place and I felt alone. But when I really started to um, use the medicine portion of it and understanding the medicine part of it, it saved my life. It truly did.
Thank you. I actually believe that's another aspect of this, building these communities is communities can help with education. So one unfortunate thing about the US where I live is that education around cannabis and psychedelics has largely been just don't do it. And of course people do it. Like you said, you said I'm a teenager. Like, okay, being a teenager just goes with smoking a
Right.
joint at some point. It happens. And you could try to stop it, but people find a way.
Mm-hmm.
When you have when you can have an honest discussion about this, and I really do believe there are challenges with all of these medicines. I know that a portion of users of cannabis can become addicted. I know that psychedelics can bring up heavy trauma that's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to integrate sometimes. But when you can't have an honest discussion about it, when it's all just black and white, that's when people start having issues because they don't if people don't have a community to turn to, if they're scared of talking about their challenging experience because they think though it'll put them in prison, they don't seek help, and that causes huge problems. So if they
Yes.
know, like, hey, I can go to psychedelic Sundays, like I maybe, maybe somebody is struggling, but they know I can go to psychedelic Sundays every month at this kava bar. I can talk to people about this who will listen to me and not judge me, not try to arrest me, not get me in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a huge part for me. When I had came home with my baby and I was just at my wit's end, is that I kept thinking my family, even though no one was really checking in on me or anything, I still thought my family is going to find out. They're going to tell this person who's going to tell the authorities, who's going. It just was this huge thing in my mind. But then when I really started to do my own research And there's a right way and a wrong way to go about how we do these things.
Mm.
And once you find your balance and what works for you, that's it. That's
Mm.
what works for you is how it should be.
Absolutely. And if there are any policymakers or lawmakers watching this now or in the future, I really hope you're hearing the lack of safety that's being
Mhm.
created by the environment right now. This is not keeping people safe. Like, you're hearing stories from myself, from Darian here right now, and there will be many more on this
Yes.
podcast, where people have really put themselves at risk because of this fear. Um, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. So, anyway, I hope that this is getting some gears turning, maybe getting people. So, I'd like to ask, for you, let's say that somebody did come to Psychedelic Sundays and they were struggling. What sort of places would you send them for support?
I think the first place I would send them, um, besides what I would want to do the most is get to know
Mm.
them and and see, kind of ask them where they would feel most comfortable at, because
Mm.
I know a few different places, right? But I think if we sat down and got to talk just for a minute, just kind of um, really get to understand one another, swap stories, because it's happened before. I have been the person on the other side who's bawling at Psychedelic Sunday. And I'm over here. I have a friend who's like, I know someone, and then we'll sit and talk.
Mm.
And come to find out they know someone, a Reiki master, a shop where I can go and just de stress, right? I think
Mm.
if we sat down for a minute and talked, I would be able to pinpoint, hey, you know what?
Mm.
I do know someone. And if I don't know someone personally, I ask a friend who probably knows someone right there at Psychedelic Sunday, or, who's down the road. So yeah, that's exactly how I would do that. We've had nights like that where our inner child, for instance, we've had inner child nights where it's like we're just releasing and
Mm.
trying to comfort inside of us. And yeah, that's yeah, it's a lot sometimes.
I could see Inner Child Night being very full of tears, very
It
full of
is, yeah.
tears. Yeah. So I'd like to put it out for anyone listening to this. There are support networks available. So some of those, so psychedelic therapy is it's a real thing. And there are even people that are certified in this. It's kind of a up and
Yes.
coming field, but there are certifications for that. There is integration coaching. So that's one of the things. That's what I do. I do integration coaching, which is getting you from point A to point B and helping you along the way. There is also, so there are centers, like there are churches, psychedelic churches, where you can go and you can talk to people who, host ceremonies. So these are all, do your own research, but these are a few options. I know that sometimes, again, given the environment with this, people can think like, oh, there's no support, like there's no, where do I get support for this? And it can be a psychedelic experience is very, that can be very challenging. Like it can be, I know one thing that I struggled with, and you don't have to be a psychedelic therapist to talk about psychedelics with somebody, but I had this fear for sure that if I went to a therapist that didn't understand that world, that I wasn't going to be able to make sense of of my experiences, or
Yeah.
they weren't going to listen to me or take it seriously. So I just want to put that out there. There are support networks for this sort of thing. You can get professional support, and please connect with community, please.
Yes.
Um, I've
Yes.
seen I've seen people, even people that have had some really phenomenal experiences under the medicine, disconnect from community and not follow up with people, and get hurt. I've seen that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is a very, very important component. Hmm.
Agreed.
I'm gonna take a pause for a second there. That brought up. See, you were just talking about bringing up stuff. It brought up a lot of memories for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when you're surrounded by people you feel comfortable with too.
Mm.
I think it comes out and you don't even mean it to, especially in a plant
Mm.
medicine space. But we had kava, and we were smoking, and it just, one combo led to another. It happens just like that,
Mm.
and we need it sometimes. We need a release.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things with this work is and this is one of the things I that really, really drew me to the plant medicine community after I had my initial ceremony, is that the lack of judgment. You know, I used to be at an ayahuasca church. I worked there for a while. I volunteered there for 4 years, and I swear everyone in that space has been the person, screaming and throwing a tantrum at one point. They've been the one crying. Most of us have peed our pants at least once. It's a rite of passage in ayahuasca and the ayahuasca world. And
Yep.
and basically, yeah, what happens is that these medicines, they draw out just the raw truth of what is happening inside of you, the raw emotion, all the stuff that you bury, that you pretend is not there, the sadness, the anger, all of it. It just you see it clearly, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And with support, I think that it's absolutely life changing.
Yes, you were right.
So I'd like to ask you, I know, so you've had some interactions in the psychedelic space as well as the cannabis space. Do you have a psychedelic experience that you'd like to share? Not that cannabis can't be psychedelic, because I do believe it actually is, but
Yeah, right. I
yeah.
have many of those stories, but let's see. I think I always go to my first time using psilocybin. That's pretty much because I was super nervous. I am a huge adult animation fan, so I had all these theories in my head of about what my first time would be like, and I was just terrified. I was going nuts, and I think my first time with psilocybin was not like anything I've ever seen at all. I started out with a microdose, and once I got comfortable with that, it kind of leveled it up a little bit more, and just went from there. And I was at a Picasso exhibit at a museum, so it was just a complete light show of art and melting, and it was exactly where I needed to be. And my first time was I don't want to feel like I'm trying to sell something. I really am not. Okay. It was just a total experience. And I was there with my husband too. So that kind of made it even better. Like we were together, and doing something together for the first time at this beautiful art exhibit. Everything was melting. We were melting. It was great. That's my first. And I think once I got past that, like I did that for the first time. Once I got over that, I was like, oh my goodness, a microdose. Like I kept thinking this microdose would change my entire, like I wouldn't be able to do my normal activities on a microdose, and I was totally wrong. It's not like that at all. It's seriously, it's like taking a vitamin. You take your vitamin, you go about your day. So it was fun. I'm
Yeah.
glad that was my first
I'd like
time.
to give some context for people that may not understand what's meant by microdose. So psilocybin, what most people are familiar with is the magic mushroom, like you said, the melting, the colors.
Yes.
They're familiar with the heavy altered state of consciousness. Now, a small amount of psilocybin, and the typical microdose is 200 milligrams. Um, it will it will give you some effects like it's sort of like it acts like an antidepressant, at least for me. That's how I experienced it. I just felt a little bit clearer, a little bit
Yes.
less heavy. So it'll act in that way without inducing the psychedelic effects. Now, very important, if you do microdose, be very cognizant of the dosage. So I know that some places will actually sell pre-packaged microdoses where the dosage is already measured out for you. Because just a few more milligrams in the microdose can start having some effects. I actually do have a funny story where I was starting a microdosing protocol at one point. Um, and I had 250 milligrams. Now, it was enough that I wasn't obviously in an altered state and I was still very functional, but I could tell that it was affecting me. And so I was actually in a meeting and I was just a little bit more, I was a little more jittery than usual. For anyone that didn't know me really well, it would just look like I was kind of a little bit excited that day. And I remember thinking, okay, 250 is not it's too much for this. I feel like I'm all over the place. I'm speaking loud. I'm moving a little fast.
I love that.
Oh yeah, it's great. But microdoses are it's a very different kind of thing. But it's also At least, and this is, by the way, this just disclaimer, I'm gonna say something. It's not medical advice, okay? Don't sue me. But microdoses do not have the nasty side effects that like antidepressants had for me or for my friends. I found
Right.
it to be much better. And it's a real shame that doctors are not able to include that in their, list of things that they can prescribe. But if you want to change that,
You
then
know where
yeah,
to
please do talk to your, talk to your senators, talk to your doctors. Because
Yes, exactly.
yeah, I think a doctor should be able to prescribe mushrooms as much as they prescribe Prozac. It
Hmm.
should be an option, and not everyone is going to want that. Not everyone is gonna. It's not gonna work for everyone. But the fact of the matter is, they can't prescribe it right now. It's not an
Right.
option. It's not available. So yeah, that's very
Unfortunately.
important. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I want to ask you, I know people are going to hear all of this and they're going to want to reach out to you, most likely about community organizing. So
I would love that.
you're open to this. Perfect, perfect. Now, what is the best way for them to reach you about this specifically? If somebody wants to start, they say, hey, I heard this podcast. I'd like to start a community and I'm just not really sure. I have some questions. Where can they reach you for that?
I am mostly Facebook Messenger, so LilDankRed, LilDankRed, Facebook Messenger, Instagram too. Right now, Instagram same thing, LilDankRed,
Hmm.
and I might not see it right away because the meta and spam and all this craziness. But when I notice it, I will be there because I that's my number one thing is I want to be able to help when it comes to furthering the knowledge, education, spreading word wildfire. Let's get it going.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And feel free to reach out to me too. I'll put Little Dank Red's contacts in the description. I will also put my own contacts. And let's do a little plug for your business. You got a business, right? Yes, tell
Yes,
us
yes.
about that. Hmm.
So my cottage bakery.
Hmm.
It's kind of branching out. We're doing a little bit of everything right now, but I love my cakes. It's my way. I'm an artist at heart. I love all things art. So this was my way of showing my passion, which is my cakes and all things confectionery. So yeah, I do that here in Jacksonville and it's my favorite thing. That's why I love posting my cakes. I feel like even just posting the image of them is a way of art.
Yep. Our cakes are delicious, by the way. I had some shortbread with frosting. We went
Oh
to an event
yes.
up in Jacksonville, and yeah, so she printed out a printable ink with my art designs, and it was good. It was delicious. Yeah.
Everybody loves those art designs. Every time I share it, they're so great. You did an awesome job on those.
Thank you. I appreciate
Mhm.
it, and I love seeing them on a cookie too.
All right.
So where can people reach you if they want to get a cookie or something from your bakery? Do you have a website?
I did. I did have a website. It is currently under construction because of the wonderful wordage we use and AI. AI took down everything right now because of the
Ah,
word nugs and dank, even though it's my legal business name. So I'm under construction, but just reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, and I can send you a form, and we can build from there. Whatever your order might be.
perfect. Thank you. So that's been Little Dank Red, aka Darian here. Thank you very much. I am so excited for what's coming. I think this is the start of some really, really great stuff. So thank you for being on here. And with that, that's a wrap. Thanks, Darian.